Hello viewers, I didn't expect this race to be so difficult. For Nations Cup Round 3, we were put into the Suzuki Cappuccino, a fairly innocuous, slow looking car, and well, it is quite slow, but that does not mean it's easy to drive, because it wasn't. For example, going through turn 1 and then up towards turn 3 and 4 at Road Atlanta. My goodness, if you got your line wrong, you were bouncing into oblivion. Now, my first attempt at this did not really go too well. I jumped in with minimal practice, finished right down at the back of the pack. Best race ever. That'll go down in history as completely forgettable. However, the second attempt, I did a lot of practice, and here's how it went. So let's jump into my qualifying lap. Now, my first qualifying was pretty bad. I was 15th out of 16, right down at the back. I needed to improve that here. So let's take a look at this Road Atlanta circuit in the Suzuki Cappuccino. Quite a tricky combination, actually. So much harder than I thought it would be. As we come up into this sequence here, over this bump, you see the car begins to start bouncing around. And that was a real problem with this car. Trying to get the car to not do that. You had to drive it really smoothly. And honestly, it was a lot harder than I thought it would be. Into turn 7 and 8 here at the back end of the track, trying to get a really good exit onto the incredibly long straight. So we'll fast forward it a bit here because it's quite slow and you barely reach 100 miles an hour at the end of it on the downhill slope. So it does take some time to build up the speed. And I suppose that's the secret in these slower cars, to keep your momentum up. Any speed you lose is crucial. So 52.777 puts me pole position at the time of doing it, before very narrowly getting beaten by GT Lion there. So less than a tenth of a second between us, although look at this. We have gone purple in Sector 2 on my second attempt, as the Italian here forgets to keep turning right, goes straight into the wall and gives me a bit more space to work with. So I just need to get this final chicane right. I'm a tiny bit down, so I need a tenth through here, really cutting the corner as much as you can get away with without getting a penalty. It was a good chicane, but was it enough for pole position? Oh man, that's close. I did improve, but it wasn't enough. That's okay though, we're towards the front. I think that's the main thing. We can just bump draft this guy and just push him, try and pull away. And yes, this would be very much a technical race with a lot of strategy involved. Lion there in pole position, sitting here in second, pretty happy with that, towards the front of the pack, and Costas would play a big part in this race as well. So for this second race start, I refined my technique. As you can see, a small amount of throttle, and then applying the power after the lights go out to minimise the wheel spin. This car actually gave a lot of wheel spin if you floored the throttle, which you wouldn't normally expect. At the beginning here, I think with this better technique, Lion and I managed to pull out nearly a second immediately, courtesy of that slightly better technique. And as I alluded to just a moment ago, this would be a surprisingly strategic race in terms of bump drafting. It was such a powerful force that you really had to maximise it, especially on that very long back straight. There's a lot of time in each lap to be won or lost by slipstreaming or not slipstreaming. So through the first sector, really tricky kind of sequence of corners there, and it was so easy to get a penalty and to lose control of the car. Now unfortunately, Lion and I weren't quite able to pull clear of Costas there. If we could have done that immediately, that would have been really, really nice, and we could have pulled away as a pair and then perhaps done some fighting on lap 10. But Costas was not prepared to make the race so easy for us. And he actually had a really good opening lap, managed to stick with us, stay in the slipstream, which is quite crucial. So I thought, you know what, let's try and work together here. Of course I could go for this overtake. Let's bump draft. And that's the technique you're going to see over and over in this race as we all begin to push each other up the straight, with the main intention, I would say, of trying to pull clear of the pack behind. Now Lion here had some tendency to go defensive. I think he really wanted to protect that first position, which is fair enough. However, the race is really won and lost, I think, towards the end. The main thing right now is just trying to pull away from the groups behind and try to minimise the amount of people in the race. So heading down the hill, to end the first lap. I would say that's a successful first lap. We're still at the front, no penalties, and we are beginning to pull clear. So a group of 3 at the front, then a little bit back to 4th and 5th, and then a bit more of a gap back to 6th and 7th. So carrying the speed through turn 1. This was a really tricky part of the track. This left, then right. And of course, as I said, really easy to get a penalty. And when you're this close to the car in front, it's so hard to spot exactly where you're trying to turn and where you're trying to hit the apex. So you've got to be super careful. And then this left-hander here, on the exit especially, very easy to run wide there. So lots of things that can trip you up in this race. Lots of pitfalls. You've got to be super careful. One penalty, as I found out in the first race, was very costly. Even a 0.5 second penalty would cost you about 2 seconds, because the penalty line is halfway down this long straight, so you lose so much momentum and it really does kill you. So we're trying to not get any penalties. That would be ideal. It's about staying in the race and making sure you don't make any glaring stupid errors, and hopefully allow the others to do that for you. So you can see here, effectively pushing him down the straight, not even bumping him, just straight up pushing him as we're trying to pull clear as we drop down the hill. I'm going to leave him a bit of space. He's still thinking about going defensive. I'm not really wanting to go through at this point. But we then resume the racing line and throw it into the chicane. The back end wanting to come round. And he gets a poor run there, so I thought, you know what? I've had enough of trying to bump draft you. I'm just going to go through. You might be able to see that on the radar there. He's kind of stuck on the outside, and the other guys are going to be pushing through. And so Lion, 1st to 5th in one corner, but unfortunately, I'm going to get overtaken here into turn 1. I was hoping for the bump draft, but it's not quite going to work out like that. Costas goes through, and I think someone ends up on the grass. You might have just spotted on the radar there. And so you've got to be so careful. Again, when these groups begin to form, it can get really touchy-feely, and everyone kind of really fighting for position, and it's very easy to get pushed wide or to get pushed beyond the track limit. You get a penalty or whatever it is. So just really trying to play it safe and keep within the race. Now Costas, quite worryingly here, was super quick through sector 1. Now luckily enough, we got some bump drafting from behind at the tail end of the lap and managed to pull away. And look at that there, just goes beyond the track limit on the first apex of the chicane. Gets a 1 second penalty for that, which could be crucial. So at the moment I'm sitting in a really good position, 2nd place with the leader, about to get or serve a penalty. I'm going to bump draft him. There's no need to go up the inside. It's quite a interesting place to go for a move, because going in there narrow feels quite awkward. You've got to kind of take the wide line if you really want to take it near enough flat out. Not the best line through there. Not going to carry the speed as well as I would have liked, and that's honestly the key to this car, and the key to slower cars, to be honest, which is just keeping your speed up. If you brake too much or slow down the car too much, it takes longer to get that speed back. So you've got to be really mindful of keeping your minimum speed quite high. So as we pull away here, you see this angle shows the gaps now beginning to form. So Heaton back in 5th, bit of a gap to him. However, once this penalty is served from Costas, he's going to drop into that space just behind. So this will be interesting. I think the main aim for him right now is to remain in the slipstream of the 3 of us here, so that he can kind of stay in the tote and stay in the group. So he's going to serve this penalty. We are going to get bump draft, try to push each other further up the straight. I would say this bump drafting, if you do it properly, it could be worth, I would say, more than half a second per lap, which can be crucial. Then that's 5 seconds in the entire race, which is quite a big gap in total. So through the chicane, back end again, beginning to go round, and this car was, I was so surprised by it, because when I saw it on the Nations Cup events calendar, I thought, that would be a slow, boring race where nothing's going to really happen. The car will be really easy to control. But my goodness, that was not the case. Every time coming through turn 1 here, it felt like I was on a knife's edge, running right into that runoff on the left-hand side. over the inside. That was not the line you want. Look at the car struggling to remain still over the bump. I got a 1 second penalty for that. And that was my first glaring error, really. So a 1 second penalty. Now Costas had a 1 second penalty. I was hoping to drop into the slipstream of Costas. Unfortunately, that did not happen. As you can see, I just dropped off by about 1.2 seconds from the group. But luckily enough for me, you can see Lion there at the front of the pack. He is just beginning to defend, and that's exactly what I need. The main strategy there that they're not doing is working together. If they'd started to work together, they would have been able to pull away and pretty much eliminate me from this race at the front. But Lion's willingness or desire to defend is actually proved to be his downfall slightly there, because now I'm very much back in the slipstream. I'm back in the race. So I was quite surprised by that tactical decision to do that. So it's just something I'm bearing in mind throughout this race, that he's very keen on protecting the position, which is obviously well within his entitlement to do, but however it can count against you if you do it at the wrong time, and especially in a race like this. So as we head through the chicane, I'm pleased to say that I'm back in touch with this group and that we can fight once again to get back to the front. And with 4 laps remaining, time is running out to some extent. Now, funnily enough, again here, he defends the inside, and that hands me the slipstream. So it was quite an interesting decision. His defending is proving to be his downfall in this type of race. In a Group 3 race, that probably would have been just fine, but in a slower slipstream battle like this, that tactic doesn't really seem to work. Now into turn number 8, I believe. I'm making up numbers here, but I think that's turn 8. Onto the back straight. Firmly in the slipstream. Got the Polish driver in the lead. Costas there in second. Myself in third. I'm kind of happy with where I am right now. 3 laps to try to engineer some moves to the front. You don't need to do it right now. It can be tricky to stay at the front because, of course, we do not have the slipstream of anyone else. And so, the race is hotting up for sure. Bump drafting here. Trying to pull away from Lion, who is now 5 tenths behind, but he actually has a good ending to the lap. Gets within 4 tenths. So heading towards turn 1, not wanting to bump draft too much here to unsettle the drivers in front going into this right-hander, which, as I say, is really on a knife edge. You've got to be so careful through there. When I got the penalty, I just turned in a fraction too early, and before you know it, you're all over the curb on the inside, and it's quite tricky to turn away from that. You're dropping through the S's, flat out through here, approaching dizzying speeds of 92 miles an hour as we head back up the hill, over the curb. And, is that going to be a penalty for the Polish driver there? It possibly could be. And it is 0.5. So I'm going to look up the inside. This is always going to be a contentious moment of the race where someone's going to be serving a penalty. Now, of course, the 0.5 is not going to lose him as much time, but certainly is going to lose him time. He's going to drop to the back of this pack and maybe out of slipstream range. We shall see. I think someone else there behind with a penalty as well. The people beginning to get more anxious now as we approach the latter stages of the race. This is always to be expected. When you're in a group like this, it's just going to get a little bit more aggressive. People fighting for position, knowing that there's not much more time to sort the race out. So still going to continue to bump draft Costas. I'm quite happy in second. Let's take a look here. Into the chicane, a bit of a bump. We give him a push, unfortunately. And on the exit, I'm kind of going to get swallowed up with the lack of momentum on the way out. And that just shows you one tiny little error going into the chicane, and it really costs you on the way out. 3 abreast in front. Incredible racing here through the final corner. As we head on to lap 9, 2 to go. I'm side by side with Heaton, who has remained in the race. Done a really good job to hang on in there and give himself a chance. I would say anyone in this group of 5 has a chance here of winning this race. We also have a guy, the Dutch guy in 6th, who is not out of it at all. And so we're going to fight for position here. Up the hill into turn 3. Got the inside line. And quite crucially here, we don't quite get the run we would have liked. And as I said earlier, if you don't quite keep that momentum, it takes so long to get it back. And so the top 3 just eke out a 6/10, 7/10 gap there. I'm just on the fringes of slipstream now, so this is quite a dangerous position to be in. I need a bit of assistance from behind, which unfortunately I didn't quite get. So the gap opens up to 1.1 in front. As we head down the hill to cross the line to go onto the final lap. So clearly, running out of time here, I really need something big to happen here for that group in front. Now luckily, they are beginning to go side by side. That is helping, but at this moment in time, it's, oh my goodness, actually two of them have gone very wide onto the grass. The Polish driver into the wall. Costas is going to resume the circuit. He's going to have some dirty tyres, but can he continue? He has continued right on the tail of Lion. He does get himself a 0.5 second penalty. This is possibly looking good for a second. However, if we can get a good toe down the back straight, first place is not out of the question. So we really need to have a good couple of corners here. He drives really wide there. He's going to continue to dirty his tyres as we head up towards turn 7 and 8. For the last time, we've got the Dutch driver 7/10 behind. Costas gets a 1 second penalty. And here's the crucial moment of this race, guys. I was hoping to get the double slipstream down the back straight. Costas messes up this corner completely, drives wide, and now I'm kind of in no man's land. I'm not in slipstream range of the car in front. However, the cars behind me are in slipstream range of me. And so this is quite a precarious position to be in. Yes, I'm in second. I'm not going to be able to catch up here. The slipstream is too far away from the car in front. However, the Dutchman behind has got the slipstream on me, and this is going to be very difficult to defend. At the last minute, I'm going to move over to the left-hand side, and I'm not quite able to do it early enough. And he sneaks up on the left-hand side. I'm going to have to move to the right to give him the space. I was thinking about going around the outside there. Didn't quite work out, and I don't quite keep the momentum. Tried to chop off Heaton, but he's up the inside, and quite tragically on this last lap, I've gone from second down to fourth when a first place was an outside possibility. So drag race to the line. It's going to be an unfortunate fourth place. Oh no, God! I was relying on Costas. He binned it on that corner before the straight, so I had no slipstream. But it was an amazing battle. It was a good battle, good fight. So after all of that, the results are in, as you can see. Now, I'm actually doing a lot better than I thought I would be. Now, first in the local areas, but fourth in the UK, and 16th in the region. Now, as I've spoken about before, I'm not going to be here on Saturday for the final race, so I'm hoping to remain within, well, it says here, at least the top 15 in the UK, and at least the top 85 in the region. Luckily enough, only 3 rounds will count, so I've done 3 rounds. I can only lose positions from here, but hopefully I'll stick into those top groups and earn the 9 million credits. But I hope you enjoyed this video, guys. I'll catch you next time. Goodbye.